Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Indie Hour. We're back with episode 39. My God, what a time to be alive. 39 of these I've done. I am trapped in a infinite loop of indie games. Imagine like me just locked in like a penitent cell somewhere with a screen that just projects indie games at me. And the only way I get fed or released is if another indie game comes through and I do a review of it. It's basically my life now. The patrons, my cruel taskmasters, have selected a new game for us to check out. IDOLS of Torment. This game was crowdfunded back in 2022 by Jeremy from Black Magic Craft, and is a collection of artists coming together to make a sort of print and play, and or you can buy actually a kind of get you started set. But it's STL driven, I guess, dark skirmish game. So that's what they're calling it. But it is a very hopeless sort of hopeless fantasy cosmic head-to-head like two-player battle game. So no solo and co-op stuff, although there is some AI driven guardians and lost, your objective markers, which are like splinters of lost souls. And there is a ton of stuff in here background wise for this game, about 65 pages at the front end. Written by GW alum author David Annandale, as well as other writers in here. And this game basically represents sort of like a universe building, also supported by Nayla from House Nostromo, a wonderful, I think, German artist, because I read the about page, it said they're located in Germany, who's done all of the illustrations and artwork, and I believe also the cover. So I picked this up for $20 on Wargames Vault. You can grab it in PDF, although the website also has a full sort of like get you started kit. So if you want to grab STLs for all your minis, more importantly, a complete game and 2 miniature STL sets for $150 US. This gets you the hardcover second printing of the rulebook, an echo deck, which is really sort of like integral to the game. You have an echo card drawn every turn. It gives you extra activation markers, and also basically like boosts your or negative effects to your powers, and how far the echoes, who are the little like soul splinters that are left on the table, are going to run around. You also get the initiative sprue in Hips plastic, it looks like, with some little candles to decorate your scenery with. But more importantly, the 20 initiative tokens you need, a bag to put them in because they're also integral to the game, a token set, and a plastic Hips set of the actual lost, the little soul guys that are going to run around. This is a pretty complete starter set. Obviously, it's not like in a box or something like that. It'll ship in a box, but it's not retail packaging. It's designed to be like a 3D printed set of minis, some Hips plastic for the important bits, and then a big hardcover rulebook for you to play. But you do get, it looks like a PDF rulebook as well. So if you need to, recruit a friend to play, you're pretty much good to go. And that's $150, like I said, US. So cool collection of people. And this book is, I think, there's pages dedicated to thanking all the people that did the crowdfund stuff too. I think the grand total here was just under 200 pages, like 175 pages. Includes a hobby section, a bunch of different scenarios for you to play. And the first 65-ish pages are dedicated to the universe they're creating. So yeah, here we go. IDOLS Torment, created by Black Magic Craft, original setting and game design by Jeremy Pilpatz, Black Magic Craft himself, and JP Perot. And the writing's by JP Perot, additional writing by David Annandale and Matt Click, who are the authors, I think, that did some of the background stuff. And then art direction and designs by Jeremy, layouts by Jeremy, editing by Matt, illustrations by Jeremy, Santiago Schreider, and sorry, I didn't credit him earlier, and Nail Dark Art. It's a training and miniatures, of course, by himself. Official miniatures sculpted by the Crippled God Foundry, and the concept art by Brandish Gilhelm. And there's the rest of the thanks. This is published in Canada, so go Canada, and contains, much to my delight, a land acknowledgement, which I think is incredibly important for things created here in this country. So let's jump in and take a look. Like I said earlier, the actual IDOLS themselves, up to page 62, there's our background. So in a nutshell, because I'm not going to read you guys 62 pages of background, the universe fell apart. So it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. There's no heaven, there's no hell. There was like a primordial chaos. It had a thought. It splintered into a bunch of different ideas in that thought. And those 4 cardinal points basically pulled at the universe until everything kind of collapsed. We have a bit here by David Annandale, which talks about sort of like what's going on. It kind of tracks a single lost as they kind of get their first day on the job, the ropes, if you will. And then the idols show up. And the idols are who you are playing in this game. They are manifestations of the Eternals, who are the not the bad Marvel movie. They are the sort of like thought ideas made manifest, and the various idols are their followers who go around trying to collect the splinters of the lost so that the various cardinal points of thought can grow bigger and stronger, and their energies return to the cosmic that is the primordial ooze. So, yeah. A bit like Lovecraftian in its concepts, right? Like the universe was just a void. It had a thought. That thought splintered into ideas. The ideas eventually manifested Earth at the center of it all, heaven and hell. Then that all collapses in on itself, and we're basically in the cleanup phase of that collapse. That's my whole notes version of what's right here. And those 4 cardinal ports are Bleakest, power; Desis, desire; Aresit, weakness; and Dasis, despair in the cosmic realm. These 4 cardinal points, rise of creation. So again, like a full background on this universe, so much universe building. And now we have our sort of like setting as it all collapses into the Wandering Lost. The collapse had a critical effect on the souls from heaven and hell as their existence merged into the echo, and that's this liminal space that we're all living in this game. The pressure forced the prime energy inside each soul into a deep state of subconsciousness, locking away most thoughts and memories that gave them an identity. This massive population of souls wandering the afterlife with no sense of who they are, who they were, became known as the Lost. The Lost were all affected differently. Each retained various degrees of memories from their former life on Earth, and they did not become mindless or emotionless, merely disconnected from their past. They wandered endlessly in fear and desperation, their afterlives driven by an instability of their situation and awareness of the horrors threatening their continued existence. And then we got the Idols of Torment. That's who you get to play. You get to be an Idol of Torment. Preying on the lost. So look, this is our main protagonist. His face up there above the Idols of Torment thing is a happy little guy. The primordials were unable to create these beings in their perfect and combined image. These beings were created by each primordial in isolation and in their own images. Their final stores of prime energy were not enough to complete the task. The primordials imparted their own raw fuel into the process. From the far corners of the cosmic realm, the spawn of corruption emerged, each embodying the most extreme forms of either power, desire, weakness, or despair. And these were the idols. The plan somewhat succeeded. While not human, the few threads of prime energy within the idols gave them the ability to pass into the echo. But only when the veil weakens. The Eternals plotted with an ever-gazing eye until it became clear the veil distorts and weakens at fixed times during the Earth's journey through the cosmic realm. On Earth, these periods are known as the solstices, and so the stars move like clockwork. Earth's seasons come and go, and when the time comes, the idols descend from the echo. When the idols manifest into the echo, candles across the landscape burst into flame and ominous horns blare. So think of it like the transition in Silent Hill, right? Where like the fire watch goes off and the big alarm sounds. And that's why you get the candles on the sprue there, is that like candles just burst into flame. There's like a weird like heralding basically of their arrival. Basically that's what I imagined was the dark Silent Hill coming through. And then they're grabbing all the lost, restoring the shards of a fragmented soul. These lost find themselves awakened and often act as guiding beacons to those lost who know little of their origin or the echo itself. In some cases, the awakened lost even attempt to fight back. And this is where the Guardians come from. So there are a few like NPC kind of good guys you're fighting on the table. While the prospect of awakening might appear to provide an edge to the lost, the phenomenon overwhelmingly favors the idols. The explosions of consciousness endured by nearby lost shine like bright lanterns in the eyes of an idol, making hiding an impossible feat. Certain idols can even reach into these unlocked energies and bind them to their corrupted ambitions. Bound lost quickly succumb to the dark visions imposed on them, moving towards the beings that have them in their grasp. So basically, you're getting pulled into the other dimension, into the prime cosmic energy by the torments, or the idols rather. And the echo is just this like ever-changing primordial destruction of the realm. And the Eternals don't even know what it looks like when they arrive, so that's why like your landscape is constantly shifting. The primordials. All right, let's talk about them. I like that these are kind of like, again, this is very the Nail of Dark Art stuff. They're almost like tarot cards for each of them. Bleakest, your primordial source of power. If you want an analog, think like Ares, the god of war, or Khorne in Warhammer. Different names like Leviathan of Blood, the Iron King, the Tomb Maker, the Sword that Shatters Stars, or the Deathbringer. From a civilization's first stumbling steps into the cursed plane to the very height of its dominion, each has known war. An empire rises from the ashes of the last great conflict, only to burn as its citizens slay one another and the streets run as rivers of blood. There you go. This one seeks to hurt. So you could be him. You could be Desus, the primordial source of despair, known as the Archon of Avarice, the Crowned Eye, the Bloody Mother, the Ashmaker, or the Marrow Heart. Forms of Desus typically envisioned as a lithe feminine figure with alluring features draped in sheer robes and a fleshless visage crowned with flames, sometimes described as a massive spider with the face of a smiling woman. A crystal chalice eternally brimming with blood, or a vampiric visage with a bloody maw. And this is the hunger and yearning for what does humanity strive, if not the acquisition of that for which they endlessly strive, immortality, perfection, or admiration. The king festers upon mountains of ill-gotten wealth, blasting his empire to a withered husk. So this is Desus, the primordial of desire, so think like Slaanesh. We've got Ariset, the primordial source of weakness, the wilted lover, the scourge father, the swordbringer, the endless night, the writhing worm. So this is like our entropy god, and this is the signs are basically a dwindling hourglass, a withered tree, a circle of shattered bone, swarming flies, a dead rose, or weeping dismembered corpse. Think of Nurgle. And then we have Vasus, the primordial of despair. The darkness between the stars is absolute infinite, crushing reminder of life's immeasurable insignificance in the inky blackness. With the meaninglessness that looms over every waking moment, dwells Vasus, the primordial of despair. The unknowable, the nameless one, the shadow upon eternity, the lord of the void, the light drinker. There's not really a good analog I could think of to this one that isn't like Lovecraftian. This is sort of like less about decay and entropy. It's more about like hollowness and void. Like the void in DC, or in Marvel rather. A black hole swirls in the depths of the cosmic realm, drinking all around it, matter, light, even time itself. And this is nihilism, fatalism, and agony. The fear not of death, nor of the end of all things, but the uncertainty of the here and now. To be alive is to be afraid, and in its silence between haggard, frantic breaths, where the shadow of Vasus dwells. And those are our four cardinals. And these are the Eternals. The Eternals reign over the cosmic realm as avatars of the primordials, bidden to see their aims achieved. That's who you're playing. They act as envoys of the primordials, manifesting their will and manipulating the ephemeral energies of the cosmic realm to influence the fate of all sentient entities across the boundless universe. You're like a greater demonic figure in these. And then the orders are the various idols, sort of like collections of idols that might serve each of the Eternals. And boy, are there crazy ones. And they kind of, again, so we have our cardinal ones, Bellicus, Vacuous, Desus, and Ariset. And then in between them, we have the Scorn, the Vain, the Strife, the Wretched. So like the closer you are to one of these like Eternals, the more like on the prime like cardinal coordinate you are. But you're going to share a little bit of stuff. So like between Vasus and Bellicus, the Wretched. And the Strife between Bellicus and Desus, we have the Scorn and the Vain. And this is where we get into some real horror shit. We had to see our various factions. There's 8 of them. So the Strife, Beastermen from Beaster Island. We've got the Scorn, kind of like that video game, Scorn. They're like your Cenobite, I don't know, weirdo, Lovecraftian gobbledygookies. The Vain, some torture porn skin monsters from wearing ballerina costumes in each other's skin. The Insensate, they're like greedy gold, like loving fallen angels. I don't know, Zinch monsters kind of. Gluttonous gold people. The Vile, we get our pestilent sort of like zombie bugs. The Wasting, so this is like famine almost, and they have these like little weird mechanical chairs and stuff that hold them up, move them around. I do love the Brain Idol. I think that's my favorite one. And the Hollows, this is that whole like void, endless despair, the agony of not knowing, sort of like hollow faction, kind of ghostly almost. And then finally the Wretched. It's a Cronenberg, Morty. It's a Cronenberg planet. We got Cronenbergs, some good old Cronenbergs. Because why not have Cronenbergs? And those are your protagonists. This is who we're fighting to be. Which of those is the most appealing? And we got some more Idols of Torment by David Annandale. and we're actually into the game itself. Okay, so there was my Cole's notes. Obviously, there's a lot going on there, yeah, you got a whole lot of like dark sort of like symbology and stuff, and there's way more to it. So if you grab the book yourself, you can dive into as much of that as you want. But each of these factions has their own sort of like way of trying to reap the lost, and if you reap the lost, you get the most of them. Obviously, that's kind of like the core way of winning the game. We've got totems that are on 50 mil bases and idols that are on 32 mil bases. And unless specified by scenario rule, the 8 idol miniatures of a player's roster must represent the universal distribution of idol classes. So every one of your collections of minis, and again, the game is miniature agnostic, but you do kind of need to have, so like this is where it becomes useful. You need 2 Slayers, 2 Lurkers, 2 Stalkers, 1 Corruptor, and 1 Reaper. As long as you've got miniatures that kind of represent those things on a 32 mil base, you're fine. So you can come up with your own way that these things would look. You don't have to use the STLs, and obviously the game is encouraging a lot of hobby. So the goal here would be that you would be able to play it with anything you want. Idol classes are marked as using markers to show them off. So you could use the candles that come on that frame of, like if you're going to do your own like minis, use the candles that come on that frame to mark which is which. So the Reaper and the Corruptor would each get the 1 and 2 candle. The Stalkers would get the 3 candles. The Lurkers would get the 4 candles, and the Slayers would get the 5 candles. So if you just want to mark bases and stuff like that with those, that'll tell you the idol class. It's just a nice, easy way of showing things off. And then finally, we have our game mat. It's 2x3, and there's like I believe a purchasable game mat, board and train. And it's, and the standard game size is kitchen table size, so 2x3, roughly the size of like the Games Workshop 22x30 kill team mat. So you could fudge that mat just by changing deployment zones if you have one. Or obviously you could just take a 3x3 mat and cut a foot off it if you want. And it looks like there is a bespoke one here that's on the table. And then finally, the objectives. You need up to 8 miniatures to represent the lost. And these are the souls that are all run around the table that you'll be trying to fight over. 8 official plastic lot sets with 25 mil bases are included in the game piece set, and these miniatures are also available in STLs to download and print at home. And then finally, Guardian miniatures. This rulebook includes optional scenarios, and some require miniatures called Guardians that are third-party foes. The descriptions will be in each of the scenarios, and you'll be able to see what you want to get if you're going to make your own models. And then terrain, there is like a generic terrain set they describe. I think it was 1 12-inch piece of terrain, 2 6 inches, 2 4 inches, and like a bunch of like 2 and 3 inch pieces. Basically, you want 15 pieces of terrain in a variety of sizes. Cards and tokens. The Echo deck is required to play, but there is, if you don't have one, a table you can roll on for what the Echo effects for the turn are. There's a set of Eternal Power cards in the Echo deck as well, and this just gives you the 2 full sets so that you can play the game with them. And then finally, your 20 marked initiative tokens. You could just as easily take yourself some wooden chips and write 1 to 20 on them if you want. But as part of the game set, obviously, that I showed earlier, you get some plastic ones, and then some marker tokens for some effects. Binding markers when you've bound lost models, so you can make them follow you. Condition markers for when you have like a special condition, and then wound markers, little blood drops for when your guys have more than one wound and get wounded. You need a full set of D20 dice. And then you need D20 dice of polyhedral, I was going to say D&D dice, but you need a full set of those. A tape measure and a gauge, and that's the easy stuff. You get a plastic gauge on the measuring gauge, and I think it's 6-inch or 7-inch measuring gauge on that set with the tokens as well. And then we got our game fundamentals. So you got idol models, lost models, and guardian models. Those are the 3 classes of people. Now you're each going to have different guardian models, idol models, and the guardian models might show up in a scenario, but typically the lost models are going to be your objectives. And then you are the Eternals. You're the people that are trying to cast spells and command your models to go and collect as much stuff as possible, and we need this scenario. We got some concepts like dice rolls and modifiers, TNs, we need to roll something or higher. How to measure, closest point to closest point. Within and wholly within defined. How to use dynamic terrain. Tons of rules for line of sight and visibility. The game is incredibly crunchy in its descriptions. So you're going to have lots of intent-based rules writing here that will give you pretty much every scenario. So like we've got 3 pages here just dedicated to like line of sight and standing on terrain. Then we got our idols. How do you choose an order? And now each order is going to have separate abilities that they can do, different things that make them special and unique on the game table. And they always have the same like bunch of classes, depending on which one there are. So Slayers, these are your melee combat guys. Lurkers, they make range attacks usually and spit or like chuck chains. So like that guy in the middle bottom here, that's obviously got like a scorpion attack. We got a banshee whale on the right there and like spitting some kind of acid on the left. Obviously the ones above them are all variations of stabby. Stalkers, they're the ones who can move around. Typically you use those to go grab all your lost. And then you get your corruptors. They're the only idol class that can naturally bind themselves to the prime energy in the lost. The act of binding involves an immediate corruption of the awakened consciousness of the lost, making them vessels of thought and emotion. When they bind a lost, they stop running away and come with you, and that lets you reap it easier. Then you get your reapers. They specialize in reaping the souls of the lost. While all idols can reap, reapers are significantly excel. They don't leave the plane of existence. So typically what happens when you reap one of the souls and take it back to the cosmic, like sort of like eternal that you're playing, you'll leave the table. So like you pull them through like a dimensional door, right? The reapers can send them through typically and stay on the table, which is really handy because you don't lose a piece when you use them. So handy gameplay thing, use corruptors to move them along, then send them to the reaper. The reaper sends them away and you haven't lost anything and you've got one of the lost. And then your totem, placed in the Echo by Eternal prior to deploying their idols, a totem is a powerful structure that's a gateway to the cosmic realm. It's a superconductor of corrupted energy, enabling an Eternal to manifest their idols and focus their power in the afterlife. It's a unique model, not represented by an idol class, and does not have a stat block. It's basically terrain. Can't be activated, never moves, takes actions. Can't be engaged, destroyed, or targeted. Has a beacon ability that can be there for as a conduit for eternal powers. You can like shoot your magic through it. And can sometimes draw lost towards it, as stated on the Echo cards. Your Echo cards might say it's going to run towards you. And then your stat blocks. These are your basically like your generic stats for each of the classes that are on the table, and all of your. I think they're pretty much there aren't different stat blocks for different factions. You're pretty much the same. It's your abilities that are going to change. So like your Slayer can move 6 inches per turn. That's his speed. His attack, he adds that to a d20 when he makes an attack roll. He adds 3 to his defense roll when he makes a defense roll when someone attacks him. His damage is d10, and his corruption is d4. He's got 1 wound or he dies. So your little guys basically, whenever they get hit, you're going to roll a d10. Whenever your opponent is like hitting you back, you're going to roll your corruption. So like it's pretty easy to take guys out of d10 versus d4, but there's always a chance that you're going to be able to block an attack. Slayers have the Fury special ability. That's going to allow you to take a subsequent action. So typically what happens when you draw an activation token, you're going to be able to do 1 move plus an action. And you can never activate a model again. The Fury ability means that model can actually be activated again, but only to make another melee attack. So that guy has like an out of activation, even if he's already gone during the turn, where he keeps fighting. He's like a berserker. Lurkers can make the range attack. Stalkers can use the Agile special rule to move quicker. And the Corruptor can do Beacon, Bind, and Call, so those special actions. And then finally, the Reaper, like I said earlier, has Beacon, Remain, which means that they don't leave the table, and then Call as well, where they can call the lost towards them. Corruption's basically your toughness, your resistance damage, wounds, of course, how much damage you can take. So the only models that can take more than 1 hit here are the Corruptor and the Reaper. And the more damage you do, obviously, the most damaging melee things are the Slayers. When you get down to your leader types, they only do d4 damage. They're actually not, but they're tougher and harder to kill. So you can see it kind of flexes. The Slayer at the top, he's got d10 damage, but d4 corruption. The Reaper at the bottom has d10 corruption, but d4 damage. So you can see if you look at the stat block, it seesaws left to right. This is an interesting piece of game design where if you're a fighter, you have the top stat block. At the bottom, if you're like a support piece, you have the lower stat block. And your bonus to attack and defend also switches. I think actually the attack and defend, it just declines, and then defense is the only real variable there. It's the only one that's really different throughout the factions. But again, the idols are all the same across all the factions. You just get different abilities. All right, playing a game. So we're going to place our train. Pick a scenario, place your lost models based on the scenario, place your totems, which is your like goalposts, almost like a Guild Ball style goalpost, and then deploy. Players game to have upwards of 50% of the table covered in terrain. Make it as balanced as possible. and push keep a few smaller pieces with a footprint of 4 inches or less off to the side for eternal powers, because you might be able to like actually summon, like throw rocks from the sky, or have a spike come up out of the ground of earth. Due to the nature of standard deployment, players should go wild with placing terrain on the board with no defined deployment areas. There's no concern for creating an imbalanced deployment. You put all your 20 initiative tokens in the bag, put your Echo deck to one side of the table, and then place your lost models. After the Echo has been set up, players take in turns placing lost models. You roll d20, and the player with the highest gets to place the first one. The standard number is d4 plus 4, so between 5 and 8. Can't be within 9 of a board edge, can't be within 3 of another lost, and they can't be on a fully impassable terrain feature. And then you place your totems. Can't be within 6 of a lost model, can't be within 12 of an enemy totem, and they can't be placed fully in impassable terrain. And then finally, your standard deployment. Each player draws 8 tokens from the bag and lays them down in descending order. The player with the highest token places an idol model first, then you go lowest. So this is the initiative like style for this whole game. You're going to draw a number of initiative tokens equal to the number of models you have, and then any bonuses you get from the Echo deck for the turn. And then you lay them out consecutively, and the lower the number, the later you go during the turn. And the same goes for deployment. And then the standard deployment is a player cannot place an idol within 3 inches of any model or a lost model, and they can't go anywhere in fully impassable terrain. So you can be anywhere on the table. You mix it up right away. And then our round structure. So like I said earlier, reveal an Echo card. It might have a bunch of different effects, but the 3 things it will always show is how far the lost move during the turn, how many extra tokens you get to draw from the initiative bag. So like in this one picture here, it's 4 extra tokens. And then when you manifest your powers. You can never have more than 10 tokens out of the bag. So even if you've got like 2 models left, and or if you have all 8 of your models left and you drew that +4, you'd still only grab 10. And then power manifest bonuses. So this value describes a modifier when you're trying to use your eternal powers, the things that make your factions different. You might get that added to your dice roll or subtracted depending upon how things are going. And then you draw your initiative tokens. Just like I said earlier, you're going to go highest to lowest, activating back and forth models. That means you may activate, because of 1 to 20, you might activate several miniatures in a row, or use an eternal power when you activate. And then once you've drawn your initiative tokens, all the lost go off. They move. So unbound lost, all try and run away, whatever the move value for the turn is from your guys. And there's rules for dynamic lost. The normal core rules are they just stop when they hit something they can't move through. So they'll go in a straight line. They'll like bump into it and kind of clip like a video game. Dynamic means they move around it, like they're smarter lost, which would probably be the usual way to play it. And they won't try and engage you. They can try and run away. And you can see this is the AI. And if they are bound, though, you get to move them towards you. So the bound lost will move 3 inches and run towards you. As long as you're still visible. If you've moved away from them, though, they kind of break the trance and they get to walk off. And then player turns. So again, going by initiative, you can either activate a model or perform an eternal power. And then the eternal powers are all defined usually by your faction. And then in the round, whenever all the tokens have been used up, you put them back in the bag as you use them. If you have any tokens left after the last activated model is gone, you put them back in the bag as well. So you kind of want to use all your eternal powers as much as you can before everyone's done activating. You can also use tokens for things like enhancing your eternal powers. You can focus. It's like, let's say you've got like 2 or 3 of them in a row. You can put the next one down to try and make a power go off by getting bonuses. And we got objectives, so like trying to get the idols, whoever gets the most would win. Or brutal victory. If you kill all your opponent's idols, then you're considered to have won the game. And then finally, phase out. At the end of the 4th round, everybody rolls a d8. On a 3 or higher, the game continues. 5th round, it's 5 or higher. 6th round, the game automatically ends. So the game never goes more than 6 turns, 4 to 6 turns. And then, like I said earlier, you can move and complete an action when you activate. You've got a 1-inch engagement range around you as you move. Models can have advantages if they're engaging with more than one model. So you got a +2 attack. And then your actions are attack, rush, reap, or disengage. You can attack if you're engaged or disengage if you're engaged, but you can't rush or reap. The attack is a pretty simple process. It's pretty much the Frostgrave combat system. You roll a d20 and add your fight modifier. They roll a d20 and add their defense modifier. You compare the values. If you got higher, then you're going to strike them and then make a damage roll. And that's the same thing. You roll the damage dice versus the defense dice, or the corruption dice, sorry. And that's for both ranged and melee attacks. And then you can see the special actions. Like I said, they're on the cards there. Fury, which is attack more than once per turn. Range, make a shot. Bind, that's going to try and bind a lost to you. And then call, make them move towards you. Agile was the other thing I was talking about earlier. You can draw the difficult terrain for like rough terrain penalties and stuff. Beacon makes people move towards you. Beacon models play a key role in the delivery of eternal powers. See the eternal power section. So it's almost like a, in War Machine terms, if you ever played War Machine, it's an arc node. You can use powers through beacons. And then Remain is the one where you stay on the table if you've reaped a model. Some description of combat. Backlash is basically a free strike. It can happen for a variety of reasons. And then, like I said earlier, so resolving an attack, and this is pretty much the same for melee and shooting. Select somebody to hit, make an attack roll that d20, and add stat block modifiers. And then any of the relevant ones, defense roll, same thing. Compare the two, and if you get higher, go to a damage roll. Roll your damage dice, your resistance dice, which is your corruption value, or protection if you're a guardian, because you may be wearing armor and stuff like that. And you do a wound if you wound a guy. And if they're dead, they're taken off the table. If they're not, they get a wound marker. Same thing for ranged. Crits add +2. And in the case an attack automatically hits on a crit if you get a natural 20, and 2 players then go to the wounding step. When making the damage roll, you get to roll 2 dice and pick the one that you like. Combat advantage, if you're get engaged with more than one model, you get +2 modifier to the attack roll. And then a lost interaction. So binding, if you have the bind action, you can select somebody within 9, try and bind them, then they're going to move towards you. And when you bind someone, you use your corruption value. So the higher your corruption, and that's why, of course, the leader style models have a high corruption value, and it's both defensive and makes them come towards you. And then you get a target number for doing it. So for an unbound model, it's a 4+. For an enemy bound model, it's a 6+. So if you're trying to steal one from somebody, it's even harder. And then you can also call people towards you. And then finally reap them. So the reaping model must select a visible loss that's engaged with, and they can't be engaged themselves. Make a reaping roll. So you use your corruption value. So if it's unbound, it's on a 5. If it's bound, it's on a 4. So if you bind them first, it's easier. And then the outcome is, if the total result is equal to or greater than the target value, the reaping succeeds. And then you root for models. When a reaping model succeeds, remove the target loss model and the reaping model from the board, and both models are now removed from play. And taking them back to the cosmic realm. So like I said, the Remain ability is very important because it means you don't leave. Conditions, special abilities, and a lot of eternal powers can make these go off, being held or stunned, knocked back. And then all of your order abilities. Okay, so each order has 4 unique special abilities. There's one that goes to all your models. There's one that goes to your Slayers, one that goes to your Lurkers, and one that goes to your Stalkers. So your 6 kind of like class-based characters are all going to get their own. Based upon who you are. So Strife, for instance, all the models get Savage Predator. They get +1 speed. The Slayers get Brutality. They get to crit on 18s. Lurkers get Venom. They're -1 of the resistance roll when they try and stop the damage, because it's like poison. And then Stalkers get Mighty Antlers. When resolving an attack when the model is the defender, the model can take a backlash on any successful blocks. So if they block, they can make a free strike, because they got antlers and they stab you with them. Scorn get a +1 to their damage rolls. They get Flesh Hooks. Whenever this model takes a backlash, the attack always hits, because you've got like a proclivity for striking back. And then your Lurkers gets Chains. You become held because you're scorpioning them. You're doing a get over here. And then Stalkers get to Subjugate. They get the Fury special actions. So that's cool that you get your normal, like your mobility guys get to fight twice too. Vayne. All your models get Remain, which is amazing. That's a really powerful ability. Slayers get Dance of Death. The model can split its movement before and after taking an action. So you can do half its move, make a melee attack, and then leave again. Lurkers get Precision, +2 to the attack roll when making a range attack. And then Stalkers get Allure. This model is treated as a totem during the lost movement steps. It's going to run towards totems. The Vayne are very powerful. The Insatiate, they get Bloodlust. When completing a move, the model ends its movement within 3 of an enemy model. It can take a rush as a free action to engage it, because they love to fight. And then so that means you're moving for free, and then you can still fight as your action. That's everybody. Slayers get Drain. You get to add 1 to your move value if you kill somebody, and you can never have more than 2 wounds. So you can't get 3 wound big guys. Your Lurkers get Cleave when they make a ranged attack action while engaged. So like you can shoot even though you're engaged with somebody. When resolving a ranged attack against this, the model is the attacker. The model must make a select somebody within 3. If the model successfully hits the defender, it can resolve a second range attack against somebody within 3. So it's effectively like a reach attack. It's not really a ranged attack, but you can do it when you're engaged, and then you can swipe through multiple models, and you can do it at 3 inches. So it's sort of a range attack that also can be used in melee, but the idea is that you're like doing a big spin cut. And then your stalkers are immune to held and stunned. Vile, they always count as obscured for like being shot at and seen. Wither, your minus 2 defense roll for your slayers. That's pretty cool because you're easier to hurt people. Lurkers get toxic spores. When resolving a ranged attack with the model as the attacker, the model can target everybody within 3 inches of the target. So basically you have like a blast attack. And your stalkers get bioluminescence. You get the call special action and take free action at any point in its activation because you're like an angler fish with a light on your head. The wasting get life support. You can disengage as free actions at the start of your activation. You get a defense system. You're minus 2 to the when resolving an attack where the model's the defender, the attacker must include a minus 2 to its attack roll. It's just hard to hit these guys. Your lurkers can repulse people. When resolving a ranged attack where the model's the attacker, the model hits the defender. It's knocked back if it's not destroyed. And then stalkers get deadly apparatus. When resolving its attack where the model's the attacker, the model can target all enemy models it's engaged with and resolve an attack against each one. So you like spin around doing stabs. And then we get the hollow. When resolving a reaping on an unbound lost, the model adds +1 to its roll for every single model. So again, they're really good at like collecting the lost. Slayers get the vessel. The model gains beacon. Lurkers are shriek. So like I said, they're banshees. They scream at you. If you hit, they become stunned if not destroyed. Enduring. When resolving an attack, ranged attack, or attack power where the model's the defender, it adds +1 to its resistance roll for the stalkers. They're just hard to kill. And then finally, our Cronenberg's Morty, the wretched. All models get scurry. They're agile. They can entrap. Enemy models can never break engage status by either moving away or disengaging when engaged with this model. Lurkers mutate. When resolving a ranged attack where the model's the attacker, the model selects a visible target within 12 of it. And then Abomination. The model has the impassable threshold of 6 inches. You just can't move around the stalkers. And then you get your Eternal powers. So this is done in lieu of activating a miniature. You can like cast your spells basically as the Eternal. You choose it, you manifest it, and you resolve the power. Whenever the player successfully delivers one, it's delivered through the player model with the beacon ability, like a totem, a reaper, a corruptor, or any other model with that order ability. And the powers will be on the card. So there's a target value that you have to hit, an effect, an attack, a reach, and then damage and descriptions. So for instance, here's our Eternal stat block. So this is what you are. You manifest on a d12, and the attack value, if you have something with an attack tag, would be on a 5. You're going to roll that and add it to a d20. And then players choose Eternal powers from the Eternal power cards below. The same Eternal power can never be manifested more than once in a single round by either player. If a player fails to manifest their chosen power, the power can't be chosen again. Can be chosen again, but either player throughout the round until it's successfully manifested. So you're both vying to try and do it. You make a power roll on a d12, and you compare it. You also add any modifiers, like if you have that +2 on the Echo card. And you can focus. When making a power manifest roll with focus, add +4 to it. And that's you have to discard an initiative token in the next one in the sequence. Then you resolve your power, and hitting is the same attack sequence basically, but you use your Eternal's +5 attack modifier. And the damage roll will be used based on the power. So for instance, Ash Storm, you get 5+ on a d12. It has reach 3 inches through one of your beacons, and then damage is NA. All idols and guardian models within range receive a +2 modifier to all defense rolls, resolved from attack, range attack, or attack powers. It's stackable with obscured. So basically, you're creating like a defensive cloud. Cataclysm on a 9+, it's 9-inch range from a beacon and d8 damage. So like to point the table within reach and resolve an attack power against each idol and guardian model within 3 inches of that point. So basically, you blow up a chunk of the battlefield. Collapse, like the terrain piece within reach of the footprint of 12 inches or less. Resolve an attack power against each in-terrain idol guardian model in that piece. So you basically collapse a piece of terrain. Any idol not destroyed by the attack becomes stunned. Cosmic Blast, Echo Fade. You can remove a piece of terrain from the board. Echo form, you can make a piece of terrain. Empower, select a player with, player model within reach. The player model gains the bind special action until the start of the following round. So you get a 12-inch range. Does no damage though. You can do grass to make somebody held, morph somebody. This power can't be delivered by a totem. Select a player model within range and switch that model's location with the beacon. Any initiative tokens currently placed next to the models to note completed activations must also switch locations. Any condition applied to those models do not switch locations and are transformed to their own vessels. Models may never break engaged stats with a switch. So it's like it's a Nightcrawler Banff, but you're switching 2 miniatures. Recall. This power can only be delivered by a totem. Select a player model within reach and place it within 1 inch of the player's totem. Models held or engaged with an enemy model can't be selected because you can't put them back that way. Reshape. Select a terrain piece within reach of a footprint of 12 inches or less. Immediately rotate the piece 90 degrees, ensuring the center point of the piece stays on the table. So you can spin a piece of terrain around and then shockwave. All idols and guardian models within reach of the model or thing are knocked back. So you can push people out of your melee. And you're going to pick how many of those you want. I think is 5. Selecting powers. Eternal powers. Yeah. You just can't do the same ones. I think you can do as many as you want. Choose a power. Players choose eternal powers from the eternal powers cards below. Yep, you can do all of them all the time. But you can only do each one once per turn, no matter who does it. And then more Idols of Torment lore. And we're into the scenarios. Okay. So you have quick scenarios that you can kind of roll up, and then official scenarios, and then custom scenarios. They give you like a printable template in here to make up your own. You get guardians, like angels and demon statues. Heroic Lost can be guardians. An unstable echo, portals, hostile terrain reinforcements, modified rosters, and awakened lost. These are all like the sort of like weird quirks that can happen during a scenario. And then declaring victory. The standard objectives at the end of the game, the person that reaped the most loss is victor. Supremacy. At the end of the game, the player with the most idols on the board declares victory. Secured. At the end of the game, the player with the most idols within 1 inch of a designated terrain piece declared victory. And then trapped. At the end of the game, the player with the most idols within 1 inch of their opponent's totem declared victory. And then you've got random results. So this is how you would randomly generate a scenario. Rules for the guardians, angels and demons, or heroic lost. So the angel has repel as an ability. The demon has enslave as an ability, where you can knock people back or you can reap them. Or not, so you can't reap models in 3 of them. And the lost, it's a heroic lost. When a model with the lost ability is reduced to 0 wounds, it becomes a lost model. Place the guardian miniature with a normal lost miniature. A model with the lost ability is immune to damage from the collapse or cataclysm attack power. And then a model with the morale ability inspires nearby lost. Unbound lost within 3 of a model with this ability, ignore the unbound lost behavior and always move 9 inches away from nearby idols, period. We get some AI stuff for how they move. And then a little like AI ability, how they would manifest powers and attack people. Special rules for scenarios like reinforcements. Any slayers, lurkers, and stalkers destroyed during the gameplay, you place to the side in a pool. When a player's reaper successfully reaps a loss, the player can bring a single reinforcement chosen from the pool in the following rounds. Basically, your guys can come back after they take somebody away. And then we have our official scenarios, the Cosmic Storm, big maelstrom in the Echo. You can see this one has the objective of 2 Eternals attempt to harness the power unleashed by the breach. Declaring victory. At the end of the game, the player with the most idols on the board declares victory. If both players have the same number of idols, the player with their corruptor on the board declares victory. The game ends when the following phase-out rules. And then you get Unstable Echo, Reinforcements, Power Surge. When making any power manifest rolls, adds +1 to the modifier. So it's just going to be across the whole game. Gates of Heaven. Get a big arch in the middle of the table. In this one, 2 Eternals and their idols clash over the endless flow of prime energy emerging from an ancient gateway. In the game, the player who reaped the most loss declares victory. If both players have reaped the same number of loss, the most idols declares victory. And then the game ends when you phase out. There's angelic statues as guardians that will fight you, the Echo Gateway. Each round, players alternate placing 2 lost on the board. Players roll a d20, and the player who rolls the highest places the first lost model. So basically, like coming through the gate. And then Heavenly Power, the gate radiates a safe zone that prohibits all idle models from approaching it. You can't go near the gate to heaven. And the Flames of Hell, think a similar scenario, but for demons. Bridge scenario, a bridge spans the eternity of the echo, a structure so massive that it disappears. So like, it's like an endless road, sort of. Again, you're trying to reap more lost. With Guardian Statue on the table, there's a labyrinth. Again, you're clashing over idols in this one. A massacre. You're trying to massacre the lost. Ambushed by heroes and the echo, 2 Eternals and their idols quickly turn their attention to a sabotage and the others escape. He's trying to get away. And the strongholds, you get like a big castle, it's like an attacker defender mission. And the collapse. The churning chaos of the echo manifests here in destructive ways. And you have like chunks of the table that disappears. This one requires a special 12-inch tile table where every time a piece of table goes away, you remove the table pieces. And the table progressively gets smaller as the receding board collapses. Then we've got our printable for making your own. And then some beautiful hobby stuff. Obviously, Blackmagic Craft features tons of like creative stuff for doing RPGs and tabletop games. And Jeremy's put in some lovely suggestions on how to make terrain in here. And what base to put them on. And then at the end here, a basic terrain set would look like this. Right, so big 12-inch piece, a 10-inch piece, some 6-inch pieces, some 4-inch pieces, and a variety of 3-inch pieces to put down. Some kit bashing ideas. Quick ref. And a big thank you to all the people that backed the game. And that's it. Idols of Torment. Oh, and all the concept art too. So there it is. We've tormented all the idols. We've looked at one of the bleakest miniature games. This is a truly bleak, like post-apocalyptic, post-existence world game. And obviously not for the faint of heart because it's just all horror themed. So if you're into that kind of stuff, if this is something that speaks to you, then obviously you can go and grab the Ultimate Game Bundle from the Idols of Torment website. It will all be in the video description below. And if you have a 3D printer, you can print the minis or kit bash them yourself. Obviously, like the game assets are just going to be easier to grab probably from the game bundle, and having miniatures for like the Lost and the tokens and stuff will make the game infinitely more playable. But if you're hobby-minded and crafty, you can make them yourself. So there it is. Our most recent indie game, The Idols of Torment. It's all available right now on the website. So if you want to check out more indie games, obviously this is the 39th episode of the Indie Hour. The Indie Hour is sponsored and selected by patrons. I don't pick the game. Well, I put my thumb on the scale every now and again if something exciting is coming out, but it is the games are nominated by and then voted on by the patrons in a poll every single week. So if you're watching this on YouTube, the week of the 24th of September, 2025, this was recorded a week prior. There is about probably like another half-hour content as we do like a Q&A before and after. We sit and chat, talk about the game, talk about the design, and do like a bunch of sort of like just industry talk around this. There's some additional content on Patreon. And if you want to nominate games for the Indie Hour and vote on them, you have to be a GMG patron. And that's the best way to support indie content. So here we are, shining a light in the darkness as the Idols of Torment candles come, the foghorn blows, and we are all whisked away into the netherland of the echo, and maybe rejoin the cosmic as our life force is, like dragged away by a bunch of chain monsters or Cronenbergs. Thanks for watching. We'll see you for more Indie Hour next week. And of course, if you are a patron, you can hang out after so we can do some chit chat and talk more about indie games. Bye, everybody.